Welcome back to Hot Topics, a special segment of Studio 122. I'm your host, Thomas Kent, here with Ricky Moser, BJ Laudermilk, and Allie James. We've been talking about the election. We're going to get right back into it, hot and heavy. So the big thing is the protests right now. Obviously, Donald Trump won. As far as the Electoral College goes, it was somewhat of a landslide. We know the popular vote was split kind of down the middle. What are your takes, BJ, on the protests that are going on?
Well, you know, like Ricky said, it's kind of like a big tantrum. These, Clinton supporters, they've tried protests. They've got these petitions online that the Electoral College can change the votes for whoever they want to vote for, and I don't think that's fair to the American people, because if you look at it, Hillary Clinton only won the popular vote because she carried California and New York, two of the biggest states in terms of population, and she carried both of those big time. That's what gave her the advantage in the popular vote. If you look across the country, most of these states, they all went for Trump, and I think that would be unfair to the American people, that just because your candidate didn't win to make a whole election change its outcome, which we've never had in the history of our country, that doesn't seem fair to me.
See, in a protest, to me, agree or disagree with why people are protesting in other events and stuff. A protest to me should be something for someone's civil rights being violated. Whether you agree or disagree with Black Lives Matter or police brutality or any of that, you see what they're trying to change. Mm-hmm. You see that they're trying to go for more safety for whatever. There's nothing really to be changed by this.
Well, you see what they're trying to change. It's the election outcome. That's all they're trying to change.
Right, but that's not something that can change, really. And if you want to protest something, I think maybe protest the Electoral College, protest change for that in the future. But then again, that's kind of a slippery slope. Look at the House of Representatives. It's based on the population of the states, just like the Electoral College is. And that's not really something you want to start changing. Mm-hmm. I mean, you change our whole government,
Yeah, exactly.
So, Ricky, what do you think about the protests? I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier, but...
I think what you're seeing now is a society that has been so accustomed to getting a participation trophy, where winning is no longer valued and everyone wants to win. Everybody's not going to win. I think this is the first real side effects of a participation trophy, for lack of a better words.
You're right. I really think you are, and like you're kind of mentioning is that this is something that's been growing and growing and growing, anywhere from Pee-wee sports to major elections. And you're right. Now we're seeing our first major effect of it. I like that. Allie, what do you think?
I think that, I always respect when people come out and they show their opinions. That's important. That's part of our democracy.
Sure.
The problem is that we're not going to make any real change by dividing and by separating from one another. I think we absolutely need to come together. We need to figure out a solution together, and by putting each other down and saying you never want to hear from a Trump supporter again, you never want to hear from a Clinton supporter again, that's not the way that we can make change.
The first time we had that kind of divide in the population, it led to the Civil War, and I can guarantee you I don't think anybody wants to see that kind of loss of American lives ever again.
It may sound silly, but didn't you catch Saturday Night Live this weekend? Did you hear Dave Chappelle's monologue?
Yeah.
Someone that's pretty clearly not a Trump supporter, at the end of his monologue said, "Hey, we have been historically disenfranchised. I want to give Trump a chance. Trump, please give us a chance."
Yeah.
I think that is the attitude to take. Again, I haven't experienced much of this, so it's hard for me to speak on, like a black person or a woman's perspective. But the attitude that Dave Chappelle has shown, I think, is the attitude that everybody should take in any instance, much less the election,
Yeah.
We did have protests here on campus. They did not get violent like some of the protests along the eastern seaboard have. Western. But let's have a look. Let's just see. And we're actually not going to take a look. I'll describe it to you. There were people with signs and there were chants. So we're gonna move right along here. Can you tell me what you like about Trump, some of Trump's policies that he's been talking about since the election, BJ?
I look at his efforts to reform the health care policy. That's been a big sticking point for conservatives ever since the Affordable Care Act was introduced a few years ago. And how that is affecting the country, where a lot of these people can't afford to insurance, and if they can't have insurance, then they get fined on top of that. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see, how with what he's talked about in terms of reforming it while keeping certain parts, not a complete overhaul, but enough so that it feels like the change that we've all described.
Right, and those parts for our viewers that may not know, who are just joining us on Studio 122 Hot Topics, those changes, those things he wants to keep about Obamacare. He wants to keep the ban on insurance companies denying coverage for pre-existing conditions. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
And he also wants young adults to be able to stay insured on their parents' plan. I believe it's till 24,
25, something.
So, those are great parts of Obamacare. The problems with Obamacare, for instance, I haven't had insurance in 27 years, my entire life. Now that I'm an adult and it's my own responsibility, I haven't been able to afford it because what you get for the price that maybe I can afford leaves you completely broke after one doctor's visit. The copays are outrageous on the lowest plan, of course. And then the opposite is you get fined, but at least it's out of your tax return, so you're not taking a hit out of your monthly bills. So I can see the parts of Obamacare that need to stay, but Trump's reform is definitely something that is going to help a lot of people, middle class, lower class people, I think, alike. Ricky?
I definitely like how Trump wants to protect our Second Amendment rights. I like how he wants to rebuild the military. I think we're pretty good. Do I think that we're at our full potential? No, I don't at all. So I think that's something that he's definitely stressed throughout his campaign is we want to rebuild, become the biggest and the best. And I don't see anything wrong with those at all. And then with immigration, I don't think he's ever said we don't want anyone to ever come in this country. He wants you to do it legally, such as my mom, who came here from Mexico legally. And so I don't see a problem with anyone that wants to come here legally and chase the American dream and make their life better and America better.
And he did make an appearance on 60 Minutes this weekend. And when they brought up, there are 11 to 12 million illegal immigrants here in this country. Obviously, the majority of them are from Mexico, but not all. They asked, basically, are you ready to ship them out? And he said, no, that's not what I want to do at all. There are probably 2 to 3 million of those 11 to 12 million that are criminals, drug dealers, and whatever. And those are the ones he's targeting. And in fact, he said that the majority of them are terrific people. So while the media, and of course we're sitting here on a TV station, we are the media, they blow things out of proportion, and then people on social media go even further with it. I don't think there's ever been a plan to just take 12 million people out of our country that do work hard and that do want to be here legally, and just ship them out. I think the wall and fence will help some of the ones that are deported from getting back over here. Allie, what did you like about Trump?
I do like that he states his opinion. He says exactly what he's thinking. A lot of people are scared about things he says and about his radical display of what he believes. But I think in regards to that, you need to remember that presidents do things like that. Presidential candidates do that because they want votes, and that's what got him votes. And in addition to that, I agree with his immigration policies. We're not going to take all these people out of America. We're just going to be more careful. He's trying to make our policy a lot closer to Canada's, which unfortunately, if you want to move to Canada because Trump was elected, just make sure you check up on that because their policies are a little more difficult than ours. And we need to remember that Trump obviously supports immigrating to the United States legally because his wife is a legal immigrant.
Exactly. And one thing in closing, to speak on the immigration again, the key word in illegal immigrant is illegal. I think to be upset with Donald Trump for wanting to carry out this nation's laws that are already in place is pretty ridiculous. I think that, you know, it's the law. Why shouldn't we follow it? And why shouldn't everybody follow it?
Yeah.
So, Ricky, BJ, Allie, thank you so much. For them, I'm Thomas Kent. You've been watching Hot Topics on Studio 122. Thank you for joining us.